gotta put in hard work. Yeah, can't let nobody hold you down, baby. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Hoop Academy Project. I'm Derek Limas, and I just want y'all to know I feel very honored and privileged to be sitting here with these three fine women. I mean, just the aura in this studio is, I mean, it hasn't been like this in a long time, and I'm really, really happy and really, really satisfied and pleased that you all agreed to come on this show. To my right is Nellie Quander, who is a 1948 graduate of Parker Gray High School. To her right is Ardelia Hunter, who graduated in 1946. And to her right is Naomi Lewis Brooks, who is a 1951 graduate of Parker Gray. I really appreciate y'all coming in and sitting here to talk with me. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things today in regards to Alexandria, how it was back when they were going to Parker Gray. And we're also going to talk about the December 1st event where they're going to name the floor honor Earl Lloyd, who is a graduate of Parker Gray and also went into the NBA and was the first African-American to play in the NBA. And we're going to talk about, you know, the tip-off classic and like I said, the naming of the floor and the honoring of Earl Lloyd as well as Parker Gray. So let me start with you, Naomi. You're a 1951 graduate of Parker Gray. Tell me a little bit about how you feel just about this event that's going to be happening on December 1st in regards to Earl Lloyd and the naming of the floor.
Well, I am extremely excited. Now, I was not in the class with Earl Lloyd, but I saw him around the high school, and I was in awe of him, number one, because he was so very, very tall. And I know it's going to be a wonderful event, and the fact that they're going to include women is particularly exciting to me because we did play a very significant role during those days. As a matter of fact, I had a letter from Coach Lewis Johnson. He wrote it in 1987. He was looking for some information on my brother Jim, and he came across an article from the Alexandria Gazette where they had talked about the girls' team, and he said, you know, you really didn't get enough credit. His wife, Ruby Johnson, was the coach for us at that time. You really didn't get enough credit. There's a young man at the Gazette who would like to interview you and talk about what went on during that time. And he gave me the name. Would you agree to do it or have him come see you? But before that time, Lewis Johnson passed away. But he did send me a copy of the article from the paper. And in that article, it mentioned that Parker Gray's girls were extremely good that year. They had traveled around the state, had won 10 games, lost one, and tied one, and that they were paced by Naomi Lewis with 176 points. And Eunice Majors had, I think, 56, and Jackie Lovingood had a number of points, too. We were the three guards. And so, you know, I didn't pay any attention to it during that time, but to think of it now, I said that was really pretty good during that time, considering the conditions we had and so forth. So he said, we just need to give the girls some more recognition. So December 1st, it's been a long time, but we're being recognized.
Well, speaking of recognition, Ardelia, you played basketball at Parker Gray, and Nellie, you also played basketball at Parker Gray also, am I correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So, and you two played on the same team?
Yes, for 2 years.
So tell me, how was it for a female student athlete back at that time, Ardelia?
It was exciting for us because we had a new PE teacher, Mary Carter Brown, and she was excited about sports for women. Not only did she bring in basketball, she also taught us tennis. Those who were interested, she taught us how to play tennis. But her main focus was basketball, and she built up the team. And I played guard, Nellie played guard, then I understand I played forward for a while. And we had a championship team that year, or the years that she was there. We traveled to Richmond to play Maggie Walker, and we traveled to Fredericksburg. And the highlight someone was telling me today is when we were selected to go to Storer College in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, to play a college team, and we lost by 1 point. So that we were excited about going. We were very unhappy that we thought we were a better team. In fact, we knew then we were a better team than their college team, but they beat us by 1 point. And so we had a very, very strong team those 4 years with Mary Carter Brown. And after she left, Mrs. Johnson returned, who was the previous PE teacher. She left when her husband went into the service. Mary Carter Brown came in and stayed 4 years. She left because her husband was in the service, and Mrs. Johnson returned. So where she had Mrs. Johnson, we never had Mrs. Johnson. We had Mary Carter Brown for our 4 years.
So Nellie, how was it, you know, playing in the late 40s at Parker Gray?
Well, I grew up with 4 brothers and no sisters. So I loved playing, and I was an athlete. I think, though, when you stop and consider that we grew up at a time when the high schools were all segregated, and that's why we had to travel to Richmond or Fredericksburg or Baltimore or around to play other high schools, because there weren't any other black high schools around where we had teams to play. We were very enthusiastic about it, and we had coaches who were interested in us as individuals and not just winning the basketball game. And Ardelia lived close to the school, so sometimes we had to be at school at 5 o'clock in the morning to get in, to get on the bus to travel. So I would spend the night at Ardelia's house in order to get there quickly. But it was a very exciting time. I loved it, and I loved the sports.
So, all right, all this success as far as, let's just say the basketball team was concerned during the duration of all of your high school experience. Where the boys played, next to Parker Gray, where did you all hone your basketball skill? I mean, how did you get so good?
Well, I'm the oldest of 5. There are 4 girls, and my brother Jim is the youngest. I played with my 2 older uncles who lived nearby, and some of the other boys and girls played together too. But I was always let's call it a Tom girl. I loved sports. I would always get my homework done and could not wait to get out of the door to go over to Blessed Sacrament Church on Braddock Road, where there was a basket, and they would allow us to play basketball. And then I went the first 4 grades on the spot where T.C. Williams is now. It was a 4-room yellow schoolhouse. And I went there the first 4 grades before I went to Alexandria, to Lyles Crouch, and then on up to Park Gray, where I played basketball up there. But I played basketball every waking moment I had that my mother would let me play basketball. And so, just like anything, when you work at it and continue to work at it, you get to be good at it. But that's where I played, on the basketball court at the little 4-room schoolhouse with 3 teachers there. And then, of course, at Lyles Crouch we played, but after school, played at Blessed Sacrament School.
Mm-hmm. So how about you two?
I grew up with boys. That's what I'm saying. And in our neighborhood, and the lot next to our house, they had a basketball court. That, I think our fathers constructed it, and my mother really wanted me to be a little lady. But every chance I got, I was out there playing basketball with the boys. And I had to play because in our neighborhood, to make even sides, they needed me. And I think when you play, a lot of times, as Naomi has pointed out, when you play with boys, they have absolutely no mercy on you. You learn to play well or not.
Right.
I mean, you're not a girl anymore.
Right.
And my mother really wasn't that happy about me playing with the boys, but I did it.
And Ardelia, how did you hone your basketball skills?
Well, Mrs. Carter Brown when she came, I think she was looking for tall girls. And she selected, I think, Jessie Willis was one, Nellie and myself. But Nellie had previous experiences with her brothers and playing the game. We did not, so she worked very closely with us, teaching us the skills of basketball, because I was not interested in basketball. I liked tennis and I liked swimming, but I knew very little about basketball. But by the time she finished coaching and practicing more, you learn to appreciate the game, and you learn to appreciate the friendships. I think I had so many nice friends that I have to this very day, that from that period in my life, that I had no regrets for the hard work that Mrs. Brown had us to do in order to become an excellent team those 4 years.
Well, if I'm allowed to ask this question, should there be a game honoring the girls? Team and coach at Parker Gray.
Yes.
Like there's a boys
Yes.
game. I mean, I know there's a girls game going to be played, but shouldn't there be somebody being honored along with what else is going on that day? What do you all think?
My understanding is that they are going to recognize us, and we're trying to find as many former players as we can who are still in the area. And we're either coming out to be introduced at halftime for the 4 o'clock girls game, or before the game starts. They haven't quite worked that out yet. And the team, my brother tells me, who's the coach for the girls at T.C. Williams, is going to be wearing retro uniforms like we wore. So that's a recognition there. That's going to be very nice.
How do you feel about that, Nellie?
Well, I guess I'm an original women's liber growing up with all those boys. And I feel any opportunity we get to recognize the accomplishments of females is an excellent opportunity. And we should always take those opportunities to say that women really have a place in this world and in the sports world. And we didn't have any college teams. Even if you went to college and played, there were no professional teams for women, no aspiration to go and play in college, because you wouldn't have had anything to do following college in terms of being a professional.
So if Title IX had been in effect and the WNBA had been in effect, would that have made maybe a difference?
It probably would.
Yes.
Ardelia?
Yes, I think it would have made a difference. We would have received recognition. But during the period that we were playing basketball, and you notice I keep saying very well, the boys, we had a dream team of males who just knew that they were the best in the state. So we were not recognized because they overshadowed.
Overshadowed.
Yes. And everything were the boys, what they did. But we traveled with them. And the schools, some of the schools, I think there were about 3 schools that they went to that had good girl teams. And Maggie Walker had a champion team. I know they beat us once. And I think the school, and I can't think of the name of the 3rd school that had a very good girl.
Armstrong in Richmond, and Walker Grant.
Norcom in Norcom.
Norcom, right.
In
Roanoke.
Norcom was in Tidewater area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Norfolk.
Right.
But they had some good
excellent
teams.
We played a lot of those.
And they were all black teams.
Right.
Because as you remember that everything was segregated during that period. And we just loved it. I think I loved traveling. We got to get out of the city limits to see what others were doing,
So
we traveled with the boys.
On the same
we were
bus.
on the same bus, and we played the first game with the girls.
Like
and then
they do
after
now.
we played, after we played, the boys played, and we traveled with on the team with the same team that the boys were on.
So how do you feel about the fact that one of your fellow classmates and a man who went to the same school that you went to is being honored and having the floor named after him at T.C. Williams High School?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I knew Earl in class. We went through high school together, and to have known him as a student in school He was not an aggressive person. He was very low-key, just a nice young man. He was very playful, like most of the boys were during that period. He got his lessons just like the rest of us did. But you would have never thought that he would have reached the height that he has. Now, there were others. There was another player, his best friend, Bubba Ellis. You expected Bubba to reach those heights because he excelled in all sports. But I never thought that Earl would reach the height that he has, and I'm very proud of him. And I'm sure his family members who are still here are also. But he was a nice person, just as nice as he could be to work with, to play with, and to socialize with.
Mm-hmm. Earl's a fine person. And it really makes my heart fill with joy when you know he broke that color barrier, and he did it with such dignity, and he was so well respected, and he deserved, any recognition that Alexandria could give him and should give him, because he's a very fine person, as Ardelia pointed out. And to know him, he never had, he was never a superior attitude, I'm the greatest kind of person. He was very humble and, of course, excellent. And he deserved a day.
Mm-hmm. Naomi?
Well, as I said, he was ahead of me 2 or 3 years in high school, but I remember seeing him in high school. But I know most about him from my brother, because that's my brother's mentor, and he was very instrumental in my brother getting into the University of West Virginia at Morgantown. And they have followed each other over the years. Jimmy went to work for the Chrysler Corporation through Earl Lord. And it's just been a number of things, and they're still close today. So that's really the way I know him, but not as Nellie and Ardelia, but not a classmate.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about the fact that they are, Parker Gray is going to be honored, because Earl went to Parker Gray. What do you think about the fact that Parker Gray is going to be recognized and honored also?
We had wonderful students at Parker Gray. I think it's obvious if you go back and look at a number of the graduates of Parker Gray and how well they did. But because it was segregated and the schools were segregated, nobody wanted a spotlight on black youngsters that did well. And to finally be in the city where we went to elementary and high school and have the people who were with us in that segregated society honored by our city and honored in public, it's wonderful. It begins to soothe some of the wounds you suffered as in the times of segregation. And whenever you see it, it's unbelievable to me now, as you think back through some of the things that transpired when you were in school.
When you say wounds, tell me a little bit about what you're speaking of.
Well, when we got textbooks, they were the old textbooks from the White High School and had it right in there. George Washington High School printed in the textbook. So they got the new books, we got the old books.
Without covers.
You can go on like that. We had, in other words, I lived in the Ardelia area of Alexandria, what's now known as Ardelia area. And there weren't any school buses. My dad had to give us the bus fare to get on the public bus to ride into school. And other youngsters, the buses were convenient to their schools. Mm-hmm. And, we didn't have that. We had to pay to go to school. And if you didn't live, you no doubt had to do the same thing coming from the seminary area of Alexandria. And so you can go back and look at all of the things that happened to you. And I had to walk maybe when I was in the first grade, probably a mile from home to get on the bus, the public bus.
So with all this, you know, we know segregation was at its finest at that time, it was rearing its ugly head. We know the system, educational system, was designed to suppress and oppress. How did you all, you know, I mean, succeed? Championship basketball teams, college, you know, attending colleges. I mean, how did you all do it? I mean, what was the recipe back then? I mean,
Parents. Your parents always preached, you've got to get an education.
You're right.
You have to, I don't want you doing some of the things that we had to do in order to survive. We want you to have a better life. That was their key word, a better life for you. Go to college, do the best you can. Might not be an all-A student, but you go down there and you do the best you can. And they expected you to, my mother used to say that, I taught you manners at home. You don't have to waste time learning that. You know how to behave, and you know what is expected of you. And you went to church, so you know your 10 Commandments. So she said, now all you have to do is go down there and study. That's all you have to do, and get out. And make something of yourself so that the family is proud of you.
And my dad had said to us day after day, the world beats a path to the door of the man who builds the best mousetrap or preaches the best sermon, yea, though he be deep in the woods. He said, you children need to work on your mousetraps, work on your sermons. He said, this door is going to open, and you'll be well prepared to go in it.
so preparation was the key, Naomi?
Preparation, and as they said, encouragement from the parents. I was the first one in the entire Lewis family to ever go to college. And my dad had 9 siblings. And the first one on the Quander side to go to college. And, you know, even some of the parents, the neighbors, were not that encouraging to my dad. My dad didn't have a high school education, but he knew the importance of going to school. And fortunately, he worked for John L. Lewis. And John L. Lewis would always nail home the importance of education. You got to send the children to college. And so we all went. Not only the undergrad, we all went beyond that, up to the couple to the PhD level. And so we had the encouragement. But you know, you can get such negative input, even from your neighbors. Well, why you want to spend all that money, $500 a year, to send her down there? You know, she's probably just going to get married. You know, why let her work in the government? Yeah. But so it was the model we had at home with Mom and Dad, and Mom always there working with us with the homework and everything. So we had a good foundation when we went.
So, I mean, and you raised a good thought. Back then, of course, segregation was running rampant, but also the equality, male-female. I mean, you all being females, you all were not as as thought about as males were. I mean, it wasn't equal.
Right.
It wasn't, the equality wasn't there. So being a black female was even harder. Am I correct?
Yeah, but my dad said his daughter was as good as his sons, and he wanted his daughter to have every opportunity that his sons had. So there was no question that what my brothers got in terms of going away to college, because I had 2 to go before me, one who was a manager on the boys' basketball team, and they had gone to college before I went, and there was no question but that I was going. But like Naomi said, people would say, well, why are you sending a girl to college? And, you know, in my house, there wasn't any question about me going because my dad understood completely the necessity of having a girl having an education, because you couldn't depend on being married and a husband would die. What are you going to do? You need to be able to take care of yourself.
That's right.
And, you know, my dad really understood that.
Ardelia?
My mother understood that you should always be able to take care of yourself.
Yes.
I didn't have any brothers or sisters, But she said, you never know when something might happen, and you have to be able to take care of yourself. And she stressed education from day one. I don't care how poor you were in those days. If you had a few extra quarters, the girls took piano lessons. I don't know why. I don't know why.
We all took.
Yeah, we all.
You had piano lessons, you know, as improvement, you know, so that you would know how to do.
Surrounding us.
Yes, yeah. And so she did, but she preached education, and just like some of the other parents, she went as far as she could in the country. She was from the country. But she had an aunt who was a teacher, Aunt Sally. And Aunt Sally had 6 children. And all of the grandchildren, all of her great-grandchildren, she stressed that they must get an education. And then, you know, they didn't go to college. They went out and taught for 2 years, and they got a normal certificate saying that they were qualified to be teachers. And that's what Aunt Sally did. Then later on, they let them go to college for 2 years, and they got a higher certificate. Correct me, someone, about these certificates that so many of the teachers had in those days, but they did not have the degrees that we came through with later on in life that made us better prepared to do our work.
I just wanted to interject here. From their basketball team evolved 3 principals in the Alexandria area. And a number of the others on the team did well too. But I just wanted to point that out. 3 of them became principals.
Yeah, Christine Howard, who was, could shoot the lights out of a basket. It was a forward on our team, because the rules were different then. And Christine was excellent. And she, when I went to Fairfax County as a principal, Christine Howard became the principal of Jefferson Houston, where I was. And Ardelia was a principal in Alexandria, too.
Oh, so we have 2 former principals here?
And a teacher.
And where were you a principal?
I ended at Patrick Henry, but I started out at Stonewall Jackson.
Right.
From Stonewall, I went to Lyles Crouch, where Nellie had. Were you there too?
I hadn't been principal.
But all of us went to schools, went to Lyles Crouch as students.
Yes.
And then from Lyles Crouch, I went to Patrick Henry, and that's where I retired from. But one point I want to bring out that I always felt was very interesting after I came back as a teacher. And when we returned as teachers, Nellie was a first grade teacher. I was a first grade teacher, and who else was a first grade? Someone else in our little group that taught. They brought French to the curriculum. They introduced French to the curriculum. And the teacher was a Caucasian, lovely lady, Madame Greenwood. Madame Greenwood came, and she enjoyed teaching the children, 3rd graders, French. And she said, these children are beautiful. They're doing so well. And she said, at the end of the school year, I'm going to have a program for the community, and nothing will be spoken but French. I said, and then you will not be back next year. She said, what do you mean? I said, when they find out that you have taught these black students here French, they're able to speak it from the moment you walk in that door until you leave and tell you goodbye in French, and you have a program with all of the classes, they know that you're too good to be over here with us. I said, don't make it too good, please, because we like you, you're doing a beautiful job, and we would like to keep you. But if you have that program, we can say in French. Say it in French, those of us who know French.
Or bon voyage or whatever.
You will not be back, and that's what happened. She was an excellent French teacher.
Wow.
But as one of the things that I really remember that was thrilling to me about playing basketball is the very first game that I played, and we got our uniforms and put them on, and they had made a mistake, and I was 00. And I know I was the first 00 in the country. And, they wanted to change it, and I never let them change it. I played in 00 all 4 years. And, there was, I think in professional sports and other sports, you couldn't be 00. You know, eventually you got to be. But I played 4 years as 00, and I said, these people now who think there's something with that 0 or 00 don't understand. I was number one.
Number one, the first one.
Yeah.
You know, we finished college. And of course, Alexandria and Arlington were the top paying areas for blacks in the state at the time. And the three of us did work in Alexandria because the schools were still segregated. So we didn't have other places in Alexandria to, you know, in the area to teach. And so when we came back, we taught with the same people who had taught us.
Yes.
They were still there.
Really?
It was quite interesting. We had gone to college, and they were still there, and now we were back as the neophytes, as it were.
Yeah.
Neophytes. You're talking Greek talk now.
The teachers who were there when I became a principal, a lot of those teachers, as she said, who taught us, were still there. And they were the most supportive people.
Yes, look what I've done.
When, you know, I mean, they really supported me as a principal because they were on my staff and they had been my teachers.
So, so it came full circle then.
Full circle.
Yes.
And you touched on something, and I wanted to ask you. You said something about the rules were different.
Yes.
When you played,
Yes.
talk about the different. I mean, what was different?
The floor was divided in half, and the forwards played on one side of the floor, and if you were a guard, you could not cross that side. Your job was to keep the forwards from the other team from making baskets and get the ball over to your team, and you couldn't cross the line, the middle line, and the floor. You know, like the girls now play this pretty much.
And this was only for the girls?
Yes.
So the rules
for the
were
girls. And it changed the year I graduated. After that, they went full court, because I used to say, how in the world would I ever have been able to run the full court? But that's what we did.
Be angry because I couldn't run the full court.
I don't think I could have until 1951. Then it changed to full court.
Nellie and I
there wasn't a team after that at our school either.
And we'll get into that.
Yeah, right.
Nell and I were feeders to the forwards on our team.
So
We got the ball from the forwards on
Go ahead.
Yeah, our job was to get the ball and feed it to our forwards. That was
they
our
were
job as
superb.
guards.
Don't let it get back across that line.
So
They were
basically,
superb.
defense and feeding the ball was what your job.
Keep them from making baskets and get that ball and get it back to the other side of the floor.
Yeah.
Bounce it.
Right. They were
Whatever.
tall and they were awesome. I used to go watch them.
Well,
They
you
were-
all what? You scored
I was coming
176
along.
points.
I was coming along.
And from what I
after they
understand-
graduated, then I played with my left hook.
But from what I understand, I mean, your brother was good, but people used to tease him that he couldn't touch you.
I taught him to play, and he tells the story. I cut the bottom out of a vegetable basket. And we lived on Quaker Lane in the seminary area, and we had trees around. I'd nail the basket to the tree, and my sisters, and along with him, he was just a little guy then, we'd play something called Around the World. You have to shoot here and then here and then here, try to get all the way around without missing it. And we would play it for hours. So I really taught him to dribble and to shoot and whatever. So he tells everybody his sister taught him to play. I really did.
So 1948, 1946, 1951, and you all played on Parker Gray's girls basketball team.
Right.
And then after 51, it was no more.
No more teams. I don't know whether, lack of funds or what happened. Because Coach
Maybe there's
Johnson was
success.
still there. And I don't know. That was the end of basketball, because I checked with my sisters and at the Black Resource Museum to try to find something on there. That was it. So I guess there were 3 teams, the one before yours, and then my team. I guess those were on. I don't know why.
So we have a game on the 1st. We have the girls playing at 4. There's history about Parker Gray's girls basketball team. How do we ensure that the history and the legacy of the girls Parker Gray basketball teams does not become extinct? how do we preserve that?
Well, like, you know, of course, one way you preserve history is by having people who were there tell it. And we were laughing because when somebody asked us to come here, I said, do you know how long ago it was from 1948 to now? I think that's 59 years. And I said, depending on my memory, is not the best thing. But when Ardelia talked to people, and when you get groups together, and everybody starts to remember a little piece, because she said a couple of things that reminded me of some things, and I think probably it needs to be told.
Right.
Yes, you need to document.
Right. And we're trying to find, I've been busy trying to find any memorabilia, anything from that period, and I've been passing it on. And I think they're doing an exhibit on December the 1st with pictures and anything else we can find, letters.
So they're doing so an exhibit
Yes, yes.
of the
girls.
legacy of Parker Gray
of the girls.
Do you think it should be an exhibit that should stay at T.C. Williams so that all the young ladies as well as young men can at least, you know, read, get inspired, and understand and learn from what, you know, went on back then and how it was successful? Because I mean, there's some success stories that came out of what, 300 and some odd students at a small box school where segregation was, you know, at its best, and the oppression and suppression was designed for you all not to go to college. You know that. That's how the system was. The books, and so many other things.
Yes.
My class didn't have a yearbook. Now, my sister's class, 1956, had one. Did yours have a yearbook?
Yeah, my class had a yearbook.
We didn't have a yearbook, so I don't have anything to, you know, follow up.
But do you think there should be something at T.C. Williams? I mean, maybe.
Well, I think
Yes.
whatever, you know, in other words, something appropriate should be there, at least, you know, maybe some pictures or something like that, but probably the museum would be the best place to preserve it.
And they do have things there in the Parker Gray room.
Right, that's true. But we do know, and we have to be really honest, how many young black kids
there.
go.
Right.
If you say where's the Black History Resource Center, they probably couldn't tell
Right.
you.
Yeah.
And we know that libraries aren't the favorite spot for our young black youth. I mean, you all being principals and educators. So the preservation, the continuing of the teaching, the history. I mean, because there's a lot to be told.
Yes, it is.
And like you said, how much do I remember? But as you start talking, the thought process goes, and you continue to remember things. And it seems when I first went upstairs, just the aura and the way you all were interacting. I mean, it seemed, and you all are familiar with each other, but just the smiles on your faces as you were talking about, you know, your days in high school. That's infectious, really. And you know, you have the young ladies who are going to be playing, and hopefully they, you know, get inspired to continue, because a lot of the young ladies at T.C. Williams, they go to college. They go to college. The males are a different story.
Right.
Yes.
And it's interesting how you know, the young ladies, they go to college, they get good grades, they you know, continue on with their education, and I mean, it all started back, way back, 50 plus years ago, almost 60, 65 years ago.
You know, my class finished in 1951, as I said, in the new Parker Gray. Had the largest class, and it was 65. That was the largest.
65.
That was the largest class at
We
that
had
time.
3 sections when I graduated in '48. We
You
had.
mean the fall? I mean the winter.
Yeah, in other words, I was one of those January graduates.
And you talked about that they had, like you said, sections.
Yes.
Yeah, when I started school in first grade, went by age, and if you had a birthday by October 1, then you could start in September. If your birthday came after that, then you started in January. So you finished in January. You had done your, in high school each semester. You didn't start a whole freshman class. You started that section that came in. And I graduated in January, and of course waited until June to have the ceremony. But you know,
and you went, and there was sections when you went to school also, Ardelia?
Yes, same high school.
Same concept.
Yeah, but I came out in June. I was a transfer student.
Same concept. I came out in June.
So let me ask this. You all are educators. Who were some of the people at Parker Gray that had an influence on Naomi, Ardelia and Nellie? I mean, who were some of the influential people at Parker Gray, in your lives? I mean, you talked about the family structure, but, who were some of the people?
I'll start with the lady who met the two ladies, Mrs. Bushrod. She was the one that would tell you about your finances, educate you about the credit union. You don't want to spend all of your money. Now you want to put some in the credit union. You got paid once a month. So she would remind you to join the credit union. Then Mrs. Stevenson came from seminary. She, when they closed the school that Naomi spoke of out in seminary, they brought Mrs. Stevenson was the principal at that school. They brought her to Charles Houston as a 7th grade teacher. So if you were new, she took on the responsibility of acquainting you with what to expect the first month of school, she was a jewel. And she told you how to act, what to say, how to do it, and don't come in, kissing and hugging, because by the end of the month, you would be crying. And she would come back at the end of the month to check on you, because she had heard the rumors in the school, what you had done right and what you had done incorrectly. And she said, well, I understand that you had a few problems. And I said, yes, I'm getting adjusted. She said, but I told you what to do.
I interpreted your question to mean how the influence that the teachers had on us as students. Did I misinterpret it?
No, you didn't misinterpret it. It was who actually helped you get to where you are. I mean, and that and Mrs. Stevenson, and I'm pretty sure there were others also, right?
Well, Reverend Atkins, who was a minister in Alexandria, was a scholar. He loved learning. And it was impossible for you to go into his class and not learn to love learning. He taught math. And until I got to him, if somebody put 2 and 3 in front of me, I just hated it. I didn't want any part of it. And I walked into his class, and I loved, learned to love algebra and love geometry and whatnot. And he was really an inspiration to me, saying you can learn anything you want to learn. And because I learned how to love math in his classes. And there were other people. And I'd say most of the teachers understood what we as black students were facing. And they, Susie Anderson,
yes,
Ferris Holland, I could name these
Keep
people.
Going. I mean, if you can, we have time.
Ferris Holland used to help my brother to take chemicals home during the summer to work. He was so interested in chemistry, he ended up getting his doctorate in chemistry. But Ferris Holland was the person who encouraged him, and there were teachers, teachers like that throughout the school who knew what we were going to face if we really didn't do well. And I'm telling you, they played an important role in our lives. And as I said, because I liked most other things, didn't like math, Reverend Atkins was my real inspiration as a teacher because it bubbled from his soul. He loved it. And you started to like it because he did.
It was
And I mean, they probably had other teachers who were their inspirations.
No, Reverend Atkins
Reverend
was mine
Atkins,
too.
Reverend
Yeah.
Atkins.
Because I never thought I was that good in math until I took algebra. General math, I think, was first, and then algebra. And then I took another course. And I never had anybody who really sat down and worked with you like he did. And he planted the seed the first day. You will be doing the work here. There'll be no fooling around. And you will learn what I'm teaching. And you did. You had homework, and you did the homework. No questions asked. He was my minister also. So you really didn't want to mess up in his class because you knew you would see him on Sunday.
But he had
wonderful. Such a gentleman.
he was so, inspired you to be a teacher too. As you came out and started to teach, he was absolutely the best in terms of making math understandable.
Right.
And I remember when I took algebra, somehow I could do the problem well, but get to the end of it and take 2x and 3x and get 7x. And he'd come to me before an exam and said, "Don't you sit down there and make those stupid mistakes at the end. You check them." But, he was really wonderful. I'm sure you found him too.
Oh, yeah. They were really building blocks for me. I still go back to that yellow schoolhouse up in Seminary where T.C. Williams now stands. There were 3 teachers, Mrs. Stevenson and Reverend Ross's 2 daughters, Frances Ross, and the other one was Mrs. Brown, and their father was a minister at Third Baptist Church in Alexandria. And I didn't have Mrs. Brown, but I had Miss Ross, and she was wonderful. She was wonderful. She really inspired me to want to teach. I go all the way back when she's holding my hand to do cursive writing. I have a real good memory. And then at Lyles Crouch, I remember Pauline Lilly was a good teacher. And then up to Parker Gray, there's no question, Reverend Atkins. And then he always came to our family reunions, the Quander family reunions. We got to see him in the church, my mom's church and so forth. And so he was a wonderful person. And then his children were in college when I was in high school. And they would come when they had holidays or whatever, breaks, and they would come and we'd get to see these college students, and we'd get to chat with them in his class and so forth. And my sister, Janice Winters, tells the story to this day that his son, Rutherford Atkins, came and he was a PhD in physics. She said, "I'd never heard of such. I have no idea what that is." She said, "But I want to be one. I want to be one." And she's a PhD. She tells that to this day. She said she was just amazed that his son was a PhD in physics. She had no idea what it was. So he encouraged us, and we got to see these role models. Miss Helen Day's daughter used to come by from Fisk, and different ones. Every little bit helped.
And all this in Alexandria.
Little Parker Gray.
Little Parker Gray.
Yes.
There was a lot of inspiration, it seems like.
On the other side of the tracks.
People who cared.
They cared.
Miss Anderson that you mentioned.
Yes.
I liked her
Susie
too.
Anderson.
Yes, I
Susie
liked her.
Anderson.
I've forgotten about it. I can't remember. Reverend Atkins was, as I said before, was also my pastor, and we just loved him.
But Susie was my homeroom teacher.
She was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had her for biology. And she taught me a lesson. I used to be rather lax and just leave my purse around. And one day I was about to change class from her class. I couldn't find it anywhere. So finally, at the end of the day, she sent for me. She said, "I have your purse. Now you learn to hold on to your belongings and don't throw things around." taught me a lesson.
So there were a lot of lessons being taught.
All sorts of lessons.
And I couldn't forget Miss Hilton on the elementary level.
And yeah, Miss Hilton.
Virginia Hilton, who was principal at later became principal at Niles Crouch. And she motivated the worst students. You can do this, you know. She's a great motivator. And she never said or did anything that would hurt your feelings, you know. Even when report cards came out, regardless of how bad you were, she always had one statement. She started out with something positive that you did that nobody else knew that you had done, and to make you feel good. And then she told the story as it was, you know. You could do better in this, this, and this, and so on and so forth. But she was such a kind, sweet, we used to call her sweetheart. And you always remembered Miss Hilton.
She was wonderful.
When I became a principal, Miss Hilton, who had been in Niles Crouch when I was a student there, was the principal then. And she and I traveled together, traveled to meetings and so forth. And I'll never forget being at a meeting one day, and she was talking to a group of people, and I walked up to her and I said, "Miss Hilton, so-and-so." She turned to me when they walked away and said, "Jackass, don't you know how to say Virginia?" She wanted me to call her first name. She said, "You don't. I want you to call me Virginia." And, you know, it was really hard because we didn't do that. You know, we respected people. And so, but I bet you this, I learned to say Virginia. But that's how, she was just a wonderful human being.
She was.
And you could go on and talk about people who touched your lives. I remember Helen Day, when I was in her class, would read every year the Christmas Carol, which when I got there, see, there was television and that kind of stuff. You know, you wouldn't have seen it. And she would sit down and read the entire book, a portion of it each day, starting at the time she knew she'd finish about Christmas holiday. And she'd read the Christmas Carol to us, which then got you very interested in literature and what else might be written in a book that you would enjoy.
And we had a wonderful choir.
Yeah,
We had everything.
with Earl Patterson.
Mr. Earl Patterson, Mr. Patterson.
You mean Parker Gray had a choir?
A wonderful choir.
E.L. Patterson.
And we would go to Richmond. There would be a competition between the high schools throughout the state, and you were judged and whatever. And we won several awards at Virginia State. And then to be able to go to this big college, you know, and sing. And we've had this relatively small choir because high school wasn't that large. And they said, "Now I see Norcom." Or Booker T from Norfolk, and the whole stage is just a sea of people. But we had a small choir, but we did well.
Very
With
well.
what we had, we won a lot of awards. And we were introduced back to sports, to field hockey with Miss Johnson. I was, you know, and track. Just a quick note: my husband's retired military, and one of his colonels, when we were at Fort Hood, said to him, they were chit-chatting, and this man had graduated from Washington and Lee in Arlington. He said, "Oh, yes, we used to play Parker Gray." He said, "The thing that amazes me to this day is that we had this wonderful track in Arlington. Parker Gray had 2/3 of a track, and most of it had cinder blocks, and they'd beat us every time." They would beat us every time because they were motivated.
It seems like that there was a lot of pride with Parker Gray
Absolutely.
students. And you talked about a story about when you were in China or you were somewhere, or you when you were upstairs, you were talking about a story when two Alexandria former Parker Gray students met in a country far away.
Yes.
You want to just touch on that?
I was with a group of educators traveling there, and somebody said Nellie Brooks, and it was Horace Burton who was on that basketball team, that picture that we had down here of the team. He was playing with the boys' team, but I was playing with the girls' team, and he was with the group of engineers. And we were so far away in Guilin, China, that you can't even get there from here. And to bump into somebody from your high school and who played basketball with you, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, that was
Really.
amazing.
We forgot one person, E.L. Patterson, Mr. E.L. Patterson, who was our band teacher and choir director. You would remember him because he believed in being on time, being punctual, and he was in charge of the graduation exercises. And if he said, be there at 6, and you got there 2 minutes after 6, you didn't march.
So
We
discipline.
learned every class that be on time because Mr. Patterson does not fool with being tardy.
And you all carry that to this day because
To
y'all
this
were very
day,
early.
to this day.
I was wondering where's everybody.
To this day, you carry it to this day.
He had his little list and he checked you off and he said, what time did I request? And we said 6 o'clock. What time is it? You may go over and have a seat.
Wow.
But he was excellent too. But see, he loved
he
it.
was an excellent teacher.
He loved
it.
But I think we could run down, you know, most of the teachers and talk about how interested they were in the students and how much they cared.
And that was what it was about, caring.
Right.
Yes,
Interest.
caring. That's the key word, caring.
Right.
Concern.
And although I didn't live right in town, as I said, I lived out in seminary.
Right.
But, you know, I always wanted to participate in everything, and so I was in the choir. So when it was time to go to Virginia State for that big competition, they had a bus for the students. But Mr. Patterson would pick me up along with Miss Helen Day would normally be in the car and a couple of other students, and they would come up Braddock Road to Blessed Sacrament Church, and I'd be on the corner, and they'd pick me up so that I could go and participate too. So they always provided for all of us, because Nellie lived a distance out too, as she said. But they always, you know, we were included in everything. They could have said, well, you live too far away, you can't get down here to go, but they didn't.
Well, you know, on that note, I mean, we're out of time, really. I mean, it's been a pleasure to sit here and talk with you all. You know, I'd like to just say thank you, Nellie Quander. Thank you, Ardelia Hunter, and thank you, Naomi Lewis Brooks, you know, for sitting in here and talking with me. And I'd like to thank you for watching another edition of Hoop Academy Project. I'm Dirk Lyman saying you all take care. Remember, pride, concern, those are some of the recipes to success. Y'all take care. God bless.
Welcome. Life is what you make. You gotta put in hard work. Yeah, can't let nobody hold you down, baby. Yeah.